What's up, guys? It's Rescue Michigan's. Man, this is like our third stream this week. We've been busy. It's been a week of turbulence in the Michigan Republican Party and a bit of turbulence with all the crazy stuff happening in the news about Kristina Karamo. So we've got an action-packed stream tonight with a fabulous panel. And somehow none of this is even going to duplicate what we just talked about on Wednesday and Thursday because the fun never stops. Of course, the big story is that yesterday Kristina Karamo was removed as state chair. She does not accept the results. We shall see. We will talk about all these things. We're going to talk about the process. We're going to talk about the details, the legality, all of these things. But first off, let me welcome my panel. Daniel Lawless, you were the one making most of the motions at that meeting. And of course, you're a state committee member from the 6th District. We've had you on our show multiple times. Amber, of course, you're a friend of the show for going since the very beginning almost. Are you still technically with the Oakland County Republican Party or no? I don't know.
Nope. No. We'll talk about that more. I can't wait.
You have moved on. So
what?
There you go.
Yeah. I know.
And we have Bree Mogenberg from, correct me if I'm wrong, the 2nd District, who also made a bunch of motions yesterday.
Yep.
And was involved in a lot of the organizing. John Rocha, is it Rocha or Rocha? I've heard conflicting things about this multiple times.
It's Rocha. Yep.
It is Rocha. Okay, Rocha. Is this your first time on our show, John? I'm not sure.
It is. It's absolutely the first time, actually.
Well, welcome, John. It is good to have you here. And then we have with no audio or video apparently, but Warren Carpenter, who was on earlier this week too. So
yeah,
probably
sorry guys, running late.
There you are. All right, we got you, Warren. Feel free to turn your camera on if you are able to, and we'll take it from there. But yeah, we've got a lot of things to go through. Hey, there's Warren. And John, same thing. I don't know what your audio situation, video situation is like. Obviously, Warren's in a very dark place right now, so if it's like that, and if
the man in the shadows,
if you can't go live, we did have a cold open, but the problem was I've got this audio from. There was this very, very, very lengthy. I guess you could call it a deposition. It really wasn't, of Dan Hartman, where he answered questions for like 3 hours from a whole bunch of different people from the state committee. And it was just, wow. I mean, first of all, I got booted off this thing like 10 times that night, over and over and over and over and over again. But fortunately, because I was connected by the phone, I got all the audio. But for some reason, there was some echo on it. But basically, what I thought was the most hilarious moment in the whole thing was very late into the meeting. We're now at like 11 o'clock p.m. So they're 3 hours into this meeting, and Lori Skibo, who is reading the questions she's choosing from the audience, reads this question that says, "Hey, Dan, would you indemnify the members of the state committee who are going to be fined and sanctioned and have to pay out the wazoo for all of the frivolous lawsuits and motions and garbage you're filing?" It wasn't quite what the question was, but that was the essence of it. And so Dan Hartman goes, "No, first off, I certainly won't. You guys are lucky that I'm working for free for the state party. And by the way, I don't know who's asking that question, but I don't know, are you a donor? Do you do anything for the party? Do you give us any money at all? Because maybe you should." And then Lori's like, "Yeah, that was from him, who's running for national committee woman as a district chair." And that apparently was the reason why Hema went to go with throwing Kristina out of power. But as Ron Picard says, looking forward to hearing the entire story step by step. It's a long story, guys, and luckily I've got my panel here. Amber's got wine. Hey, folks, this is a moment to celebrate because guess what? I think it's pretty much over. Now, obviously, Kristina does not agree with that, but let me put it this way: there's two separate questions we got to talk about. First is what will be decided is the result, and the second thing is what should be the result. So there's a lot of details we're going to be going through.
Say something really fast because yes. I haven't been talking about it at all. And I'm sure everybody on this panel agrees. We never wanted her to fail.
Yeah.
We never set up to fail. We never wanted her to fail. We never want anybody to fail. We're one party. So I just wanted to say that because I haven't been honoring these stories. I've had my own opinions, kept kind of arm's length as OCRP because I don't think that state party and county party should have any control over one another. And
Yeah.
nobody wanted Kristina to fail.
Yeah, I
Sad. It
was
was
talking
sad.
about that in the chat in between the times I was being kicked off the other night, and someone says, I remember you saying something. Let me find it. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to show you. And then they did send me this text, which clearly is something I remember saying, which was that she was not going to succeed. And that was not a judgment. That was a prediction. A prediction which, by the way, has now proven true. It was not going to work. But, you know, private communications, things like that, that's not the same as going whole hog trying to destroy her from the get-go. I remember getting a call from one of her supporters in like July, and she said, can you wait and see how it goes at the Mackinac conference? Well, what happened at the Mackinac conference? Well, turned out a thing that was supposed to be a gift turned out to be forced into being a loan. And so now the state party's on the hook for $110,000. The event was, I mean, nominally successful in terms of turnout, but nothing like previous Mackinac conferences were. And it just went downhill from there. In fact, every week it feels like it gets crazier and crazier and crazier and more dangerous. So 2 weeks ago, the story was they've initiated a lawsuit with no permission from the state committee to sue their bank. That's going to be smart. And sue the trust that owns the property, which is controlled by former state chairs, who, by the way, are also in the property business. So you've got Ron Weiser and Bobby Shostak, people who are absolute experts on property law and have an army of lawyers that understand property law. Yeah, let's have a lawsuit to see who owns this building here. And by the way, because the state committee members are all, because the MRP is an unincorporated association, they're all personally liable for this lawsuit. That was 2 weeks ago. Then last week, the story was, oh, by the way, there's also just a judgment handed down for contempt of court that also the state committee members are liable for, because Kristina didn't update a website to reflect what happened in Hillsdale, that a judge ordered her to change. And then came what happened literally yesterday. As we're at this meeting, it was probably ignored, but let's put this up on the screen. There was a proposed motion for this meeting on January 13th. And here it is. This is what they were proposing to have a vote on January 13th. Is this from Joel Studebaker? Am I correct? I'm pretty sure this is from Joel Studebaker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Bonamy has a role in writing this as well. Dan Bonamy for the budget.
Bonamy, yeah. Okay. So it's got a lot of news coverage. You may have heard about this. It was a motion to essentially replace the primaries with a closed caucus system in which precinct delegates would be the ones to vet candidates for all partisan positions, except for precinct delegate and POTUS. I don't know why they didn't write out President of the United States, which shall be the Republican nominee for the ballot for the November general election. Now, obviously that conflicts with state law, but I guess the argument is freedom of association. We can take this to court. Maybe we'll win. Maybe. But besides the constitutional questions, there's kind of a political problem here that and this just goes to show what lightweights these people in the state party are. How do you think 10 million Michigan voters would feel about being told they can't vote for their state reps in the primaries anymore? I think they might be upset about that, because I remember this whole precinct delegate thing kind of kicked off in 2007 when I was a Ron Paul supporter. A bunch of Ron Paul supporters were supporting Ron Paul. And it turned out that the party was manipulating the rules in the conventions, and we couldn't do anything about it because guess what? None of us were precinct delegates. So at some point after they passed this proposal, Republicans across the state of Michigan are going to discover, hey, you've been disenfranchised. You can't choose your nominee for state representative, for state senator, for any partisan position anywhere. Oh, that'll work. That won't make people furious. So they have these proposals for this caucus system. And they have also, of course, this proposal for fees. So everyone running for local offices, the fees go to the county party. Anyone running for House of Representatives, U.S. House, let's get the FEC involved in this. The FEC candidates will go to the respective CDRCs, and the statewide positions go to the go to my GOP, as they call it. So there you go. That's the real agenda right there. So let's shake down the statewide candidates for money to support the state party. This was what they put out literally yesterday, and this is what the media was talking about. I mean, it's just mind blowing. Am I wrong?
No, so Adam, let me get into this, because this is going to go down a conspiracy trail, I think, a little bit, but I think people need to know that.
Sure.
With just put up there, it's going to say that the county will control essentially who gets on the ballot, right? That's what it's saying. The county's going to pretty much control that. But MRP is also trying to pass bylaws that would say that the chair and general counsel would have unilateral authority to remove and replace the executive committee and the chair of each county and district should they conflict arise. Not the state committee.
Oh yeah.
Not the executive. So now you put those puzzle pieces together, and now MRP everything as far as the Republican Party nomination. I wanted to put that out there because I think it's incredible.
So John, I would like to speak to that because I feel like I may be a large reason that Conflict Resolution Committee was dissolved because I did not agree, as many members did not agree with the proposal that was put through. And it was very specifically stated that the chair would have the sole authority and jurisdiction over delegates, counties, districts, and any sub-purview of the Michigan Republican Party shall the chair on her own accord determine that there is a conflict. So, I mean, I don't know, like, Amber, your hair's blonde. People don't like it. We said turn it brown. You're not changing it. Is there a conflict now because you're arguing with somebody? What is the conflict? It would have been left up to the chair. But what a lot of people don't realize, and this is imperative to understand, because I stood and argued on this ground along with several others on that committee. They were trying to pass that as a policy and a procedure of conflict resolution. What does that mean? Well, it's not a rule. It's not a resolution. There's nothing in the bylaws. It's not an amendment. Doesn't have to go to anybody and have 30 days notice. They would have left that decision up to the 13 people that sat on conflict resolution. It would have required 7 votes to pass for the chair to have all authority. Now, with that said, it was brought to their attention. Conflict resolution was not confirmed to adjudicate or to cover delegates. So I said to them, take it back to state committee, let state committee reconfirm the committee to adjudicate and to cover delegates. If that's what you want to do, leave it to the body. That's the job of the body. They said, no, Bree, it doesn't need to go back to state committee because these policies and procedures do not give the committee of conflict resolution the authority to adjudicate. They give the chair the authority to adjudicate. So what I just said, the policies and procedures of conflict resolution give the chair the authority to adjudicate over delegates, counties, districts, and any sub-purview, all authority and jurisdiction. So ask yourself, were they attempting to stack the counties and to stack the delegates? And I will say yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we've talked about this in other programs too. The Hillsdale business, the Kalamazoo business, the whole Conflict Resolution Committee, the whole thing was about interfering in county and district business, which the state party had never done previously. But there's another thing also I see to this, which is I've got this theory about why the ass roots, as I call them, is obsessed with precinct delegate stuff. And it's because it's so easy. It's so easy to become a precinct delegate. You file a piece of paper and you're almost guaranteed you're in. How do you take over a county or district party? Just get enough of your friends to file too. It's not like you got to face thousands and thousands and thousands of voters. And these guys aren't going to knock on any doors. So there's a seductiveness. But hold on, Warren. Let me finish my point. I'll get to you next. But here's the thing, and people have pointed this out. If you change the process to where the precinct delegates electing the county and district committees, electing the state committee, have all the power, you're inviting everybody, including, by the way, folks, Democrats, to become precinct delegates. What do you think's going to happen in the city of Detroit when Democrats are like, oh, all I'm going to do is become a Republican precinct delegate? That sounds like fun. It's going to happen everywhere. And then people aren't electing the guy who knocks on their door running for state rep who hands you a card that's got a platform on it. Now you're electing a bunch of random, bizarre names from your neighborhood. You have no idea who any of these people are. How do you think that's going to work? I mean, usually when people vote for like their precinct delegates, they vote for, if there's a contest at all, they're voting for like who has the prettier name. That's how that's going to go. What a disaster. What a disaster.
But Adam, those are good points. Those are great points to be made. And the majority of voters have no idea what a precinct delegate is. There are delegates that have won with 40 voters. There may have been some that were even write-ins, and I think the requirement in that case is they only need 3 signatures. Voters don't know. The delegates, in my opinion, are not a good representation of the voters. And I'm not saying that it couldn't be different, but I'm just saying the way that it currently is.
Yeah.
I think that
Warren, you had something you wanted to say, and then I want to go to Donna in the chat.
Yeah, a couple things, right? First, I just want to talk about how even in Oakland County, there's 400 delegate positions that need to be filled. And if people walked in, 400 people, and said, hey, I'm a Republican, and you could check the credential to see if they were soft or hard or whatever else, and head turnout and yada, yada, we would just bring them in. And that's been kind of the thought process for a lot of counties throughout the state. But let me tell you what one organization did, and they did very effectively, is they brought in thousands of delegates and they trained them, they siloed them, and they put them all over the state in positions of power and in secrecy, very much like a Democrat did. And that was Michigan Precinct First. And that's how we've ended up here. That's why we find ourselves in this situation, because someone did reach out with a training platform. The only problem is they were training all the delegates to fight everyone in their party first. And once we purge the party, then we can finally win elections. That's the lie that's been foisted upon our party.
Yeah.
Amen, Warren. Amen.
Yeah, that was
all right.
Yeah.
In the chat, by the way, you know what? Now that I remember it, I need to also open up the stream on Rumble so that I can see any of the chats going on in Rumble, because Rumble's chats do not just suddenly pop out. So folks, if you are on Rumble and you had like a question or something for me in the chat, I don't know if I'm going to see any of the Rumble chats. Oh, I do see Rumble chats. Okay, I'll get to Rumble in a second. But first, on Facebook. So, folks, if you are on Rumble, Donna asked, did you ask Hartman or Karamo to come on? I did not, Donna. I have heard from Hartman and Karamo hour after hour in these various long calls. First with the 6th district meeting the other day, and then Dan Hartman's precinct delegate thing. So I've heard them for hours and hours. I've heard their side of the story. I'll tell you what, though, Donna, if they want to come on the show, they can go to my website, hit the contact button. If they want to come on the show, they are invited.
Adam.
And then Dan Hartman's
what?
Adam.
We are getting Adam back from
feedback
the Rumble.
I'll tell you what, though,
from the Rumble.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
It's all right. It's like looking into a mirror.
All right.
It just keeps coming.
I'm sorry. This is another technical thing. I don't hear my system audio in my headset. I was just saying, if Kristina or Dan Hartman want to come on my show, contact me. I'm sure they are able to figure out how to do that. I'll have them on my show, but they're not on tonight. Stephen Gothal on Facebook says, so according to you, all PDs are just a piece of shit. Well, no, Stephen, I wouldn't say that. I am a precinct delegate, by the way. Why don't you watch again? There's an option. I don't know if it's on Facebook. On YouTube, you can slow it down so you can process what we're saying at a slower speed. That might help you.
No, we just have to make sure precinct delegates are informed. And this isn't a popularity contest. Kristina was elected as a popularity contest, and I think too often we are selecting our politicians as a popularity contest when they are to lead us and to do a job, and she didn't do the job.
Yeah.
Well,
We
and
get mad at our politicians for way worse than what Kristina's done to us as a party.
and you know what? Warren had a good point. And to talk about just letting anybody in and kind of walking in. We have a state committee woman in the 13th district who's literally donating big money to Democrat congressional districts through Act Blue, a state committee woman. And we're talking about infiltration of Democrats. This is absolutely crazy.
So Julie Balmer,
That's actually
she
not
donated
supposed
over
to happen.
$600 $600 to Carl Marlinga.
I think it was 350, and Carl Marlinga, just for the record, ran against John James, and not only did he do that, but he had also been like the second-hand person to Attorney General Dana Nessel. And if you want those links, I can look them up and drop them right in the chat. Can I, before we move on from the delegates,
Sure.
I just want to reiterate, because Amber, you helped to clarify that. I think that all of us here are precinct delegates, and precinct delegates are imperative. They're imperative for being boots on the ground as well. But I think what we're experiencing right now is that it was discovered that precinct delegates can get into these roles. And I did the same thing. It was quite effortless just by name recognition. I probably was able to get on that ballot. Well, and of course, I'm active here, right? But point being is that the precinct delegates have a job to represent the voters that are in their precinct. And I think that right there is the piece and the connection that's not being made. And it's like I say to people that are here locally in our county, even the precinct delegates, are you representing the voters? If you are not sure how the donors and the voters feel, ask yourself, money talks. Is money going into the MRP right now? I do believe that that is the prime example that shows the donors, and those donors are voters. The voters have spoke. So just to clarify, nobody's saying that precinct delegates are bad. They are great and they are imperative.
They have a job to do. We represent our precinct. You know, why don't you knock doors and ask people if they want Kristina Karamo as their chair? And then you would really know. I bet you.
I think that's the other aspect of this proposal that troubles me is they say there's a fee structure, but they haven't described what that is. I mean, they implemented a fee structure for presidential candidates this year, charging each of them $20,000 to participate. Now they're going to have a fee structure for all these other positions. What are those fees going to be, and how much of a cash grab is it? Because they always rail against the big money, but now they're forcing candidates to pay up the big money.
In truth and transparency, we have to say, though, like that recommendation for the $20,000 per candidate was a mandatory insertion into the deal made to have the full representation of delegates through caucus. They made the candidates pay so we could make sure we had money to run the caucus. That wasn't the presidential candidates, or it wasn't the party. That was the RNC that made that part of the package. Just so you guys know, I want to be clear about that.
Thanks, Warren.
Yeah, I see a few different comments here, and people talking about precinct delegates. Here's the thing people need to understand about precinct delegates. If you want to knock on doors and get out the vote for Republican candidates and be the voice of your precinct, in your precinct and talk to people, you don't need to file to become a precinct delegate. You can just go out and do that, and campaigns will be happy to have you to do that.
Oh, yeah.
What the distinguishing thing about a precinct delegate is you have the power to vote at county conventions. That's the distinction. And that's why organizations want to get people to become precinct delegates, for that power. And that's what there is to it. And that is why, and I see some people are talking about this group that recruited precinct delegates. This is, So Randy says, MIPF didn't recruit PDs to actually be PDs. This is true, by the way, folks, this is true about every organization. I'll say with no apology, no hesitation. When Ron Paul people found out in 2007 that they couldn't control the process because we weren't precinct delegates, we all became precinct delegates in 2007. That's what kicked off the race. That's when the Tea Party people were like, we're going to compete with the Ron Paul people. And then the establishment people were like, we don't got to compete with the Tea Party and the Ron Paul people. Before 2007, you couldn't find anyone to be a precinct delegate. No one wanted to. No one cared. No one wanted to be a precinct delegate. But that's what the name of the game is. And going back to this this proposal from Kristina, what's so boneheaded about it is once you awaken the general public to the notion that you wouldn't be able to nominate any campaign, any candidate, guess what happened? Every single member of the public would start. You would no longer have non-competitive precinct delegate races.
Right.
And someone in the chat said, I just won by 4 votes my precinct delegate race, but more often than not, it's not contested. More often than not. Anyway, I want to. I think the thing we're here tonight to talk about more than anything else is was what happened on Saturday legitimate? But before we move on, because I do want to close on talking about this reason why it was a thing that had to be done. And those of you who watch the show a lot, we've been talking about this for a very long time. But there was a comment from, and in fact, this was put out by one of our state committee members in my county, and he did send his name to it. I don't know if he didn't give me permission to read it on the show. I will read it for the thoughts, and because I think they're very well articulated. Statement on my decision to call for the resignation of the MRP chair. He says, I feel I should communicate with the, and by this is someone who is very, very meticulous about process. He's a former county chair himself. He's been involved a very long time. He's very diplomatic, known to everybody as being very fair-minded. He says, there has been a group of state committee members that have been pushing for the resignation or removal of the state chair, Kristina Karamo. This began 6 months ago or more, and the number has been gradually growing. There are persons on both sides of the issue who have been measured and thoughtful. There are those on both sides that are emotional and insulting in the treatment of the opposition. I am now trying, as I believe I always have tried, to filter out emotions and insults and look at the core facts at issue. My observations and conclusions follow. First, party finances. The chair made claims during her campaign for chair that she could raise $50 million. The party has come nowhere near that. In fact, not even raising enough money to satisfy the previous cycle's debt, which ranges, depending on who you believe, from $500,000 to $700,000. Campaign overpromising and struggling to raise money are not impeachable offenses, but the chair and the administration have repeatedly withheld information, misled or misinformed the budget committee. The budget committee of the state committee exists to provide oversight and counsel the chair and administration on finances. To block the amount of meaningful participation, especially in a time of fiscal crisis, is unacceptable. Second thing, lawsuit. Emma asks, who am I quoting? I'm not going to name him by name just because he didn't give me permission to say it on the show, but he's a state committee member from my county. And people might be able to figure it out from that. I don't know. Second, lawsuit. As has been reported publicly, the state party administration has filed a lawsuit to assert ownership of a building in Lansing that has been used as party headquarters for more than a decade. This building is owned by a trust which is run by past chairs and other parties. The trust was set up to preserve the building for party use. The current chair has said from the beginning that the building is unneeded and too expensive for the party to rent. At first, the administration stopped paying rent and utilities for the building, eliminating those costs. Well, that's questionable. I think they're still liable for it, but he goes on. But now they are filing suit in what is widely seen as an attempt to gain control of the building so they can sell it to satisfy debts and provide working capital for the party. Of course it is. Although, as we covered on the other night's show, they can't. The building would sell for significantly more than the indebtedness. The party counsel who filed the suit states that the suit is only to establish ownership and takes no position on selling the building. That is technically correct, but misleading. Why does the party need to assert ownership of a building that the chair has repeatedly said she does not want or need to use? The answer would be to sell it. Various lawyers associated with the state committee have stated that the suit is frivolous and exposes the entire state committee membership to financial responsibility for an adverse result. It does. There has now been a countersuit filed, which confirms the fear of the reviewers. State committee members will be expected to pay for a lawsuit they did not give permission to file in their name. That said, my big issue with that element of the suit is, why pick this fight? The trust was established to protect the building for future use of the party. If the current administration doesn't want to use it or pay for it, so be it. But why remove that opportunity here from a future administration for a short-term financial gain that's short-sighted at best? But there is a second aspect of the lawsuit that has my attention and gives me pause. Buried in the suit on page 4 is this line. Plaintiff claims an interest in the following property: the exclusive right to designate political committees and county political committees. This sentence has alarmed a number of county chairs across the state in that, if affirmed, it could lead to the state party rewriting local committee bylaws and even replacing unfriendly committees or persons with those friendly to the administration. That is not good governance, and I can't support it. We're more than halfway through, but I'm going to keep reading it. Next thing, ideological purity. I have watched several interviews the chair has given in recent days. A repeated railing against the rhino, deep state, uniparty, corrupt Republican Party leads me to a revelation. A number of Republican elected officials across this state cannot meet her ideological litmus test. When we get into the meat of the campaign season, I think it means the heat of the campaign season, and these Republican office holders are fighting to gain or maintain a majority in the state house or local races, will this chair support them? I am convinced by her comments the answer is no. If any of the people on the state committee who oppose how this chair has conducted her administration were to run for office this fall, I believe she would not support them. I admire boldness, but there's a big difference between being an activist and being a leader of a party. The leader of the party should be about winning elections. Ideological purity that leads to 2 more years of Democrat control is not good governance. Collapse of support. As this controversy over openness has played out, there are now a majority of party leaders who are asking for the chair's resignation or removal. By the way, on that point, folks, that meeting yesterday, who was there? Chaired by the co-chair, Melinda Pago.
Right.
Who, by the way, amazingly, I've not heard Melinda speak. I've not seen her writing.
So good.
She killed it. Majority of district chairs, majority of state vice chairs.
Yes.
That's the whole top tier of the state party is saying enough of this. Anyway, the letter goes on. The co-chair, elected vice chairs, and a majority of district chairs have expressed dissent. I do not believe this administration can be successful in this environment. I have repeatedly advised the chair to have small meetings between her administration and the party leaders where issues can be discussed and resolved. To date, this hasn't happened, and I fear it is too late to start. It is. I have consulted with my constituents as I am able, and the majority sentiment is that this chair can no longer be effective. Ultimately, the decision is mine, but I do appreciate the input I have gotten. Conclusion. When your football team is struggling, you don't fire the water boy, you fire the head coach. It isn't always fair, and some will always be upset, but that is what must be done. I take no joy in this decision, but this infighting has got to stop one way or the other. I call for the chair to resign or for a vote to be taken for her removal from office. And on that last point, folks, the thing that amazes me, and it's so much projection, because it's always, we're the ones causing the fighting, not her. Not her who's labeling everybody. The Uniparty, you're all deep state. Marion Sheridan, who's facing criminal charges, deep state. Hank Choate, facing criminal charges for being an elector, deep state.
Mind you, if we had a state party that was functional, they would be helping these people right now that are the electors. They would be helping them. It's very sad. All of this is very sad.
I feel so terrible for the people who are on the state committee who have said, who are also facing criminal charges. And now they might be facing depositions for that BS lawsuit they filed without their permission. It just doesn't stop.
And they're still chugging along. That really needs to be shown. Like, these people care, not because they're deep state, because they care about this party.
Yeah.
They put their life on the line.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time talking with that individual, trying to get him to sign and call for the vote. And he really expresses the sentiments well about how a lot of members felt. There was no joy in this process. Nobody wanted to be there. Nobody wanted this to end this way, but it had to end. And that's really what, the majority will of the committee was.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, look at this.
Well
This
said,
is
Dan.
These are the people that were protesting the event yesterday. We, the precinct delegates, officially elected Kristina Karamo. No, you didn't. The state delegates did. Election interference. Move on, globalist uniparty.
Adam, before you go any further, I just have to say this, right? So, I have to take pride in the fact that everyone there is a D9 member, and they were all war room people. So, if there's anything I am good at, it's help train activists. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, you guys, Warren. Oh my gosh!
If you want to know my trepidation about Warren Carpenter, it's because I had to deal with all that bullcrap.
Warren likes China products.
Well,
Warren likes China products. Can I say this, Adam? This is really important to point out.
Yeah.
That sign right in the middle. What did that say in big bold letters on the bottom? Election integrity. Hear me out. Some of the people that were present and those that have been insightful in angering to other people and provoking other people, acting like provocateurs, inciting others to slander and be angry at people that have spoke up to try to follow the bylaws respectively. That sign in the middle says election integrity. These are the same faces that are big faces behind election integrity. And from what I have heard from local voters, that looks horrible. And all of the efforts that the Republican Party has placed thus far on our election integrity work. It does not stand well and it does not look good.
Okay, so I'm going to drop a nice little nugget here that I've never told anybody. Nobody's ever knows this. You remember a couple years ago, as I was the president of auditmi.org, the Citizens Initiative for a full forensic audit, a petition drive that ultimately fell flat. And unfortunately, it fell flat due to a lot of different reasons, but mostly you had the crazy birds out there assuming that I had stolen election integrity language, and so they deemed it not legal. And we had all kinds of great people: Patrick Colbeck, Matt DePerno. We had Jovan Polter. I wouldn't say he's great, but he was on there. Darren Wisely. We had a lot of great people. Tammy Carlone, Cindy Howell. We had people all over. Dare Rendon was on this, and I remember calling up Kristina, and she was doing all the Secretary of State, and I'd sent her over the information because I wanted her to look over the petition that we'd written, the language, to make sure what was going on. And I sent her over information. I never got anything back, and I called her a couple times. I never received anything back from her. And finally, she got back to me, and she goes, "John, I won't support this. I won't support it all. It's not what we want. I'm not going to support your audit, MI. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to help you in any way, shape, or form." And this is for a full forensic audit. This literally had elements in this audit for state grand juries, and actually spelled out the audit, the way the state would actually handle state grand juries and audits and everything else like that. It was a smorgasbord for election integrity lovers. It was incredible, and she would have nothing to do with it. So I'm just putting it out there. It's never been said, but it's being said right now for my first time on your show. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, John. I think to your point too, they say Chair Karamo fights for election integrity. Well, so did you, John. By the way, what am I, chopped liver? I was an election whistleblower. I organized a lawsuit against Benson that actually won. but we're all globalists, right?
Deep state all the way.
We're all the deep state.
Isn't it interesting that their election
demonizers,
integrity
demonizers.
effort, like they were claiming that the election yesterday was a stolen vote, stop the steal.
Yeah, and by the way, speaking of that,
But
folks, I see some folks in the chat. We're coming to it.
they
Bill
were
Hamilton, good to
there.
see you, Bill. By the way, yesterday, we're going to talk about that in a moment. Ron, what's the plan? We're getting to it. We will go over all of these things. On Rumble, we got a lot of chats on Rumble. I can't read all of them. But NC Sable says Pega was brilliant yesterday. Most effectively run meeting I've ever seen. Yeah, I hope my county chair was taking notes on how you deal with hecklers and stuff, because she laid down the law in that meeting. She was great.
There's a lot of great people. Security was great. I think everybody was really great. Actually, that security was so tight because I was a guest. Like, to get past me, like 2 rows. That's great.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on, I think, to the big question here. I did want to mention the MIGOP release, but that's just a joke. Let's move on, because we're already eating up the time.
They had like 3 emails yesterday.
The one with all the misspelled names.
Can I ask Adam? Has anyone pointed out that at this non-legitimate meeting, the general counsel at the time was credentialed, also participated, and also voted, and not just voted by voice vote? He dropped a ballot, and of course, I'm sure that was in opposition. But I want to point out again.
Yeah, do me a favor, Danny. Because I saw you texted to me. Could you email me the picture of that, of Dan Hartman voting? Because that was one of the big things. Was Dan Hartman, general counsel, who said the meeting was illegitimate, voted at the meeting.
Yes.
But let's start from the top here, guys, because there's a lot of questions about procedure, and this is the nitty gritty stuff that I don't think the average. I mean, I can't imagine. I can barely understand any of it. Let's start with this, and maybe Dan, we can go to you first.
Okay.
Because the first question, I think the question that everything turns on is, was that a legitimate meeting? And if so, and by the way, I've got the bylaws handy. I can pull them up. But why don't you explain the details of some of this stuff?
I wanted to set this up, and we'll turn it over to Warren for more. But I just wanted everyone to understand, we worked on this for a couple months, this whole process. And at no time did we ever expect that we would vote that Kristina would leave and that she would just walk away. We knew that this would be a fight that would probably go to either RNC or legal or something else. So everything we've did for the last few months was done with multiple attorneys, multiple parliamentarians, experts, making sure that every step of the process was done exactly how it was supposed to be done, so that when we showed up on Saturday, we knew we were legitimate. And so that, with that thought process, that's how we, took every step of the process. So, we can go step by step now. If Warren, you want to hop in and take us through each step.
Let's start with how the meeting was called, because I think that's the first question. Warren, you're muted.
If he's not there, I can take this one. Oh, Warren's got it. Go for it, Warren.
Yeah. Well, I missed where you wanted me to start from, but basically,
the calling of the meeting.
Yep, sure. So all this starts through the bylaws for the call of a special meeting. Okay, the special meeting is 1/3 of the body that must be produced with signatures. Bree made that call on 12/2 at the 12/2 meeting when she had 39 people that were state committee members and or vice chairs signed a petition that put forward. Now, in that call, I would say this. I would say there should have never been a date or a place or a chair or a secretary, because all of those things are the purview of the chair. But there was signatures and purpose. So Kristina had everything needed to enact a special meeting called by the body. Now, there's two types of special meetings. There is a special meeting called by the chair, which is her purview at any time. And then there is a special meeting of the body. The body then states the purpose. The purpose is reflective in the agenda when the call is made. Now, Kristina has 15 days to reflect the purpose and call the meeting of the body. She did not do that. Her call was deficient. She made a call on December 13th, 11 days after the fact, and her call was a meeting of her choosing, a special meeting of Kristina's choosing, with the issues that you were going over earlier about delegate and closed caucusing, as well as the Kalamazoo issue and every other wet dream that they had and want to be passed. So it's deficient.
By the way, there's that clip of Dan Hartman voting on the screen, by the way. I'm sorry, go ahead, Warren. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, beautiful. Yeah, so it's deficient in the fact that the call was made without the purpose. Because that's like saying that the state committee wants to address something, but the chair can just always say, no, we're not going to do that. I don't want to talk about that. And these organizations have bylaws written to protect the body or to protect the people who can gain a majority, right? Our body is a 50+1 body, which means that if you can get the thresholds on signatures or votes or bylaw amendments or even removal, then those are how you conduct its business. It's very clearly spelled out. And so Bree's petition was in fact legitimate. It did state purpose, and Kristina had the first 15 days to call. Now, here's the key. After Christine fails to make the call to address the purpose, as spelled out in the bylaws, any state committee member can give a 5-day notice to call said meeting, right? It's just like when the policy committee was submitted bylaws that Kristina kept saying the policy committee never approved the bylaws. I'm sorry, that's not the case either. The policy committee had the right to either vote up, down, or not act. And if they voted up in 2 days, then it can go literally to the body within the next meeting. If they vote it down within 10 days and there's a meeting 2 days later, then it's seasoned and can come to the floor. But if they don't act, it just takes 30 days and any member can then bring it to the floor at the next meeting. So both of the amendments were appropriately seasoned. Now, when we're talking about the call, any state committee member can then therefore bring forward that 5-day call with the reflective agenda of the purpose and pick the time in choosing. And so the chair not making that call. And that's what transpired on 12/31 with Bree Mogenberg making the call for the special meeting on 1/6. All the providence and documents are going to be played out on this and on our side. We have every single form dotted.
Yeah. By the way, I've gotten the screen here, the meeting request.
Correct.
Agenda to include transparency, accountability, unity, proposed bylaw amendments, review and possible removal of Kristina Karamo, Dan Hartman, Robert Owens, and Jim Copas. And that bylaw amendment is, I believe, to lower the threshold for expelling a chair from 75% to 60%.
Yeah, there were two that were seasoned, though, because Bree also put one forward. Ian Shetron put one forward, and then Bree Mogenberger put one forward. And both of those amendments came forward on the same day. That was November 4th, I believe, Bree?
Yep.
Is that correct? Okay. So if I'm getting all my dates correct, now I want to talk about something else, because Kristina kept saying they don't have the signatures. They don't have the signatures. I haven't seen any signatures. I am sorry. Again, that is not the legal language of the bylaws, Adam. If you could even pull that back up for removal of officer. It is before the meeting. And technically, if the secretary and the chair were in the room, we could have rose at the time of the motion on the agenda, and the person bringing that motion forward could have raised up with their hand all petitions on paper and said, I am providing these to the secretary upon my motion. That's how late in the game you can do it. There's nothing that says it must be provided in the call. It must be provided in this time frame. It must be provided here. It is that time of the call of the motion. And so, these individuals just are misinformed. I can't stress to the audience enough the provenance of our documentation on this.
Do I have it correct here? What I have on the screen, this is the removal of members paragraph, where there's also the subparagraph that says there's no formal procedures.
Correct.
So,
and well, there's two sections. There's removal of officers and there's removal of members.
Yep.
So
they do read the same, but right.
Yeah, they mirror each other. But just for transparency, for people that say, hey, you said that it was for removal of members, but there's another section in the
Article 4, remover of officers, letter G.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So they are the exact same. The provenance for how that, or the precedent for how that would take place is the exact same. Was that a pretty good explanation of why we know it's a legitimate meeting, people?
So I just want to piggyback on
folks
that.
in the chat, if you have questions, because we do want to go on to the next topic here, but like I said, I think that's the most critical question. Was this a legitimate meeting? Because everything else flows from that. If it was not, then none of these things really happened. But if it is, then we can move on to the next question, which is whether or not, for example, the next question I think people have is going to be regarding the question of quorum and how that went and how that was taken. Because I've heard there's been people claiming that they signed the petition that they didn't mean to sign. Although we saw the petition on the screen a moment ago, it seemed pretty clear to me.
But Adam, there is a section that clearly states this out in the bylaws as well. I'd like you to go to the section that entertains
page 7.
that.
Page 7.
Yep.
Top of page 7.
Very top of page 7. Yeah. Can we read through that, Adam, for me?
Provided a proxy.
Yep.
If a district member is not present for a particular meeting and has not provided for a proxy, the district chairman, or in his absence, the remaining members present from the absent member's congressional district, may select a registered voter from their congressional district to fill the vacancy for that meeting only. Notice it does not say anything about, and an absent member can say that they can't designate a proxy.
Correct.
They might not want to, but they can't stop them from doing that.
So Adam, can I add something? Because there were some concerns, and they were valid concerns that were brought up. In regards to this, there were some people that were claiming that district members cannot have a proxy appointed unless it is filed by that person. And that is correct when you're speaking to the vice chairs or the chair or the co-chair. Nobody can come in and appoint a proxy for that person. So that's
an
important.
Officer.
Correct.
Well, and district chair. And
like when a district member, and let's be clear, folks. So district members are most members. Those are the members who were elected to the state committee by the constituents of their districts at the state convention.
Correct.
So it says if a district member has not provided a proxy, and this I think, and maybe Warren, if you want to speak to this, but I think you guys kind of gamed this a little bit because you knew Kristina was going to say this meeting's not legitimate, so don't go. And playing on that arrogance and her not knowing the procedure better than you guys did allowed them, because if they'd actually sent their supporters in, they would have had a much different outcome probably.
We know. I just want to state this. Yeah, I just want to state this very clearly. There were 7 members from District 9 State Committee outside the meeting. Bethany Wheeler personally went over and said, please come in so I can credential you. They refused to enter. That would have been 7 more votes for Kristina Karamo's side of this meeting. They refused, listen, they refused to enter. But here's even more crucial. After Dan Hartman texted Darlene Doetzel and Sandy Wheeler that votes were transpiring, they drove over to attend the meeting, and they were credentialed and let into the meeting. And the 2 proxies, because in that, and at the very top of page 7, when a voting member arrives, they immediately take over, and the proxy is no longer the acting member. It is the actual seated state committee, and that transpired too. So even 2 more individuals. So they could have had 9 more votes, okay, which would have been a 14 to 45 if they would have wanted it that way. But they chose not to. All they had to do was show up. We were there to have the argument. They could have. They technically probably, if they would have showed up and done their due diligence and not been absent, maybe they could have changed the outcome of what transpired in a totally legitimate meeting. And here's the thing. I knew this was going to happen. They dug their heels in. We baited them to be in this situation, to not call our meeting legitimate, because that's the hubris and arrogance of a woman who thinks she doesn't have to answer to anybody. Never would she step in front of a room and be questioned and have to answer for the mistakes in the account of what the administration has produced.
Warren, can I
Amazing.
add to that? That's important what you just said, because if anybody is at fault for not showing up, in my opinion, this is fully the fault of Kristina Karamo and her policy chair that sent out all this information to give the wrong impression to everyone else. And I actually am very disheartened by that. And I do feel a little bad for those state committee members. However, it is our job and our responsibility. And you are at a state level. You need to be able to read the bylaws. And by golly, if you're going to sign your name on something and it's highlighted in bold and it says what it is, you better know what you're signing your name to. You have a responsibility in this position. But to add to the proxy piece, I want to point out there was absolutely nothing nefarious about what transpired and took place. And Warren also spoke to it when people came in, their proxies had to leave. But with that said, you're not able just to put proxies in without following the bylaws. And we did that to the point where there were districts, such as District 9, whom had nobody there. If the chairperson wasn't there or a single state committee member was not there, we could not appoint a proxy. That was not done. There was nothing nefarious. These rules were followed.
Yeah, technically, we could have never produced a proxy for District 9. District 9 could have proxied everyone in with one member themselves. It would have been that one member who could have chose the proxies if they were in the room and could sign the forms. That's how it works. You see, the whole purpose of that is to not be able to neuter the body and not be able to let them do the work, right? So technically, because there were 8 district chairs that are in support of this initiative, we had the quorum and the meeting is legitimized.
So while we just point out again for people that have just jumped on, Dan Hartman, who was the general counsel, credentialed, participated and voted at that meeting, while District 9 members and others chose to not come in, get their credentials, and participate. It was a choice, and that's how they chose to represent their district.
Yeah, there's the language here. If a district member is not present for a particular meeting and has not provided for a proxy, they could have just designated somebody else to be their proxy. And even if that person didn't show up, I think, well, I've designated someone for a proxy. I'm not entirely sure about that, but they could have done something like that. So anyway, I want to read a couple of chats here. There's a lot in the chats.
Okay.
Logger Larry on Rumble says Kristina and her administration went as far as to threaten people with legal action if they showed up. Yep. Mazurka on Rumble says, are we going to get what's next? How do we save this? Yes, we will come to that, folks. One thing at a time. We have to go through these details because they're important. In fact, I think these are the most critical things, is going through the nitty-gritty about the procedure. Because when this goes to a fight, whether that's in court or with the RNC, They're going to look at the facts. They're going to look at these details, and the rules really do matter.
Yeah.
And I would also add, by the way, to this, since the beginning, I remember being screwed over in county conventions, having procedure used against me. You guys are nodding your heads like you've had this happen to you too. It does happen. And there's nothing worse than being beaten in an unfair fight. But knowing procedure and using it, to me, that's not unfair. It's not unfair that the other side didn't know what was going on. Monica Williams just typed, what was missing was the section on if a district member is not provided proxy. This clears up any remaining questions this Michigander had. It appears that with this knowledge, the 1623 MIGOP meeting was in alignment with the current MIGOP version of its bylaws. Thank you. You are very welcome, Monica. Let's see here. Yeah, Mindy says they had credentials printed and ready to go. Yeah, you guys covered all the bases. I mean, everybody was. You had the credentials lined up, all that stuff. Let's see here. What other? FL Gibson Jr. US says, curious, were the 54 non-proxy members that attended the meeting? Correct me if I'm wrong. I would say no, but that does not matter though, does it?
No, non-proxy doesn't matter. The numbers that we've been given, 46 state committee members, 25 proxies.
I think it was 49.
Okay. Yeah, by the end, remember some of them came in late, but
However, but.
Yep. On Rumble, Carone00 says, Karamo, the wolf in sheep's clothing, just how I felt for the last 2 years. It's me against I says, I don't know how this helps us win in November. Some real legal nerd stuff going on. Well, I'll tell you what, it's me against I. Getting rid of Karamo might help us in November. Because this is the thing. I was talking to someone who didn't come to the meeting because she didn't think it was properly planned, but she did want to get rid of Kristina in a way that she thought was more prim and proper. But it's like every day this goes on, folks, the harder it gets. I mean, we're going to run out of time. Politics is on deadlines. And the sooner we get
the more
through
voters
this,
we lose,
the sooner we move on. Anyway, Aaron Tuckfield says those in the credential team were clearly instructed to ready to credential all SC members. And yeah, when you said, is it Doreen Dotzel came in?
Yeah.
They're like, you're welcome to sit down. Here you go. Take your seat. Proxy, back up. You're out. I mean, they were right on top of it.
Rolla even got up and gave her seat away because there was a little bit of a concern that there wasn't a seat. I just want to point that out. A vice chair stood up and gave her seat to the state committee member that came in.
Yep. All right. So, in chat, let me know if there's procedural questions you guys have. We talked about the legitimacy of the meeting itself. We talked about the proxies. As far as the amendment of the rules, that turned out it was moot, really, because the members present,
it wasn't even
the vote
necessary.
to remove it was 89% of the vote.
So, I mean, the last thing, what about the signatures, Adam? Do you have the petition I sent you? Because there was a question about how much trickery and how clear the language of the petition was, because apparently
are we talking the petition to remove her or the petition for the meeting?
Petition to remove.
Okay, yeah, I'll pull it up right now.
What was signed by the state committee members to initiate the vote? We needed half the committee to sign this petition.
So,
and
Daniel, I want to, before you get into that, I'm sure you'll cover this, but what's going on in social media is everybody's saying, well, you're tricking them in believing that this petition wasn't for removal and all of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you read this, if you have,
looks pretty clear to me.
Yeah, it's very, very clear, and it's bolden and it's highlighted. I mean, it's
well, it looks like it's a lot of text, but the first two paragraphs are just exactly what's in the bylaws. That's just to tell you what the bylaws say, so that you have that right in front of you when you're signing. The sentence,
it's in the heading.
Yeah.
To remove, in all caps, Kristina Karamo.
Right.
Removal of officers. Chat, I see you guys asking what comes next. How are we going to deal with her refusing to leave? We'll get there. Let's one thing at a time.
So this is, I mean, it's very clear. It says, by completing this petition and providing your signature, you are requesting the vote to be taken to remove Kristina Karamo. This petition is not a vote or ballot for removal. It's two sentences there. That's what you signed. It cannot be any clearer. It cannot be confusing. If you were confused or felt you were misled into signing this, I suggest that they should just resign from state committee, because they're not capable of being a committee member.
Yeah.
Dan, can I add to this?
Stephanie Butler
because,
absolutely.
All right, go ahead and I'll come back to Stephanie in a second. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Bree.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to point out, right, because I created those petitions and it was very intentional that the very top was bold and the very bottom and the last sentence to be read specifically stated that that petition was to be signed and everything we just read to call the vote. So again, I want to point out that that was done intentionally. And on this team, I will tell you, and I will not name names, but it had presented, well, do we have to put that on there? The bottom line is yes, because when these were created, I did not want there to be any concerns or somebody to say, well, I didn't know that. So again,
You
the last thing
anticipated
that
all of
people
these
find-
attempts to get out of it. You're right. Yeah.
So the other thing that I want to talk about, because obviously we're talking about the email that went out with two members from the first congressional district as well as Riley Linden. Let's let the cat out of the bag, okay?
Yeah, and this is what I think. This is what Stephanie Butler's comment was on Facebook
So,
too.
but
Letter
but
was
this is
signed by
what
two
this
people.
is.
Go ahead, Ward.
This is what I want people to understand. On January 12th, Dan Bonamy in the first congressional district is bringing forth a motion to remove Sue Aller for her kind of outspoken criticism of Kristina Karamo. So these other two gentlemen, both Justin Markham as well as Geyer Baylog, are also would be on the chopping block. These are people who are going to lose positions. This was always the plan for the Kristina side of this argument, was to purge districts, individuals on state committee, person by person, until they had the supermajority back, right? She had 80% support at that very first state committee meeting. And it is now to the point where it's less than 50, right? It's less than 60. So, you know, the whole idea is that multiple members from state committee have been resigning. They've been resigning because they don't want to deal with this anymore because they think the administration's bad. And when that number wasn't building fast enough, they started headhunting people for removal. And you've seen that happen both in district ECs first, counties across the state, as well as it now going on to state committee members. So I'm assuming that this is a pressure campaign for these poor individuals that are feeling this way.
Yeah, in my county, we had an EC member resign without explanation, but who we know was pressured to resign from one of Kristina's supporters, and it's tough. And you know, I always say, if you're in a position of authority, don't give it up voluntarily, unless, like as the case with the folks on the finance committee, they did to protect themselves.
Right.
But that's the way that goes. Mark Ashley Price says, I've been a Republican precinct delegate off and on since August 2006 at the age of 20 when Bush 43 was president. Precinct delegates are very important. Absolutely, they are. Brent Leninger says, I'm sure Warren has had this conversation with Troy. I don't know who Troy is regarding the question of quorum when the proxies were barred from voting, but I'm sure it's in reference to what we were just talking about. That you got your eyes and cross your T's.
Yeah, there were, like I said at the very beginning, there were conversations with lawyers, parliamentarians, everyone.
Many lawyers, many parliamentarians.
Yeah, I mean, if you were there on Saturday, you saw like a dozen of them there.
Yeah,
it was a full.
They had a lawyer's table.
Sure, yeah, three of them lined up. You know, it was.
Oh
remarkable
my gosh!
Because
you guys, can I tell you? Oh my gosh!
Go ahead, Bree.
I just got a text message. This is so interesting. I just got a text message from somebody, not from the actual state committee members, that said, oh, well, two other people didn't know what they were signing. And I just want to point out, again, you all saw that petition.
Resign.
If you don't know what you are signing, you need to resign as a state committee member. But this is something that John Rocha had just brought up on our district call. Are these people being coerced? At this point, are they being coerced? Are they being pressured to say that they didn't sign that?
I'll speak.
Yeah, do you guys? Well, and do you all
I'll
remember? There was one second. I want to speak on this point.
Yeah.
Remember what happened with the Trump the certification of the Wayne County electors for Trump?
Yep.
Where they were bullied, browbeaten, threatened, and signed off on the 2020 election, and then like a few days later came back and said, you know what? We were threatened, we were bullied, we were tricked, we were misled. We want to rescind our certification. And Jocelyn Benson goes, tough shit. You know, it ain't nice, but guess what? Once you sign your name,
Right.
That's your
It
name.
doesn't
That's
matter.
on the page.
Yeah.
You can't take it back.
Minute. And I mean, do you have to
What's
ask yourself
important-
what dirty laundry do they have? I mean, is there dirty laundry that people are like threatening to? I don't know. Just what a mess.
Well,
I mean-
start at the beginning, Bree. These petitions were collected very secretly. No, like it was so frustrating. One of the most frustrating parts of this was Bree was collecting signatures, and we couldn't even know who was signing, like because it was that secret. And so it was very difficult at times for us.
But you have to commend the fact.
Right.
You have,
Bree,
yeah,
yes.
you have to
Bree-
commend the fact that she held her word
Yes.
to every single individual she gave that to. We were literally finding needles in haystacks.
Yes, but these signatures were sent in a PDF with those lists to the chair and secretary as required by the bylaws about 15 minutes before the meeting gavelled in. And what happened within an hour or so? Everything was online. This was leaked by the administration, or the former administration now, specifically to intimidate and browbeat members. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but that is a fact. And, I'm willing to stand with any member that signed, because, it's just not tolerable. That's not how you build a party.
Yep. And Dan, what you just said is a really good reason that it was probably put into the bylaws, that those signatures only need to be filed before the vote is called because of what you
Correct.
just said right there. So I'm quite sure that those bylaws were written intentionally, just as they are.
Yep. All right. Well, I see more and people in the chat are still asking.
Adam,
Yeah.
Can we talk about what happens next? So we'll move on if we can. But Warren, you had something you want to say. Go ahead.
yeah. You had a quote from or a question from Marion up there, Marion Sheridan.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yes.
hear that. Can you reread that one again?
It wasn't a question. It was a statement. She said there were several attorneys and parliamentarians present overseeing the entire meeting
Yeah,
to witness
correct.
that it
Okay.
was legal and in compliance,
Okay,
which I
perfect.
guess actually is a nice segue to what we were going to talk about next, because people keep asking, well, now what happens now that Kristina is refusing to acknowledge the legitimacy of the meeting? And someone else asked, do you want to talk about what Dennis Lennox posted on Twitter? So let's start with that, I guess, because I think broadly speaking, there's two places where this is going to get decided for once and for all. One is probably going to be the court or some single court. The other is the RNC. And what typically happens, and now I have to say that I've seen a few cases where the exception has occurred that proves the rule, I guess, but the conventional wisdom had been that if you have a disputation with your county party, your district party, the state party, you go to court, the judge will go, hey, what does party general counsel think? General counsel says, yada. Court goes, yada it is. And that's the end of it. So in this case, what the RNC's opinion about this is going to carry a very high amount of weight in any courtroom. So we'll go to what Dennis Lennox posted yesterday on X, and we'll go from there. I see Tom LeDuc says, Dennis is full of cow dung. Well, I mean, he's an old establishment guy. I get that. Doesn't automatically make him wrong though. So let's see what he has to say. Here we go.
Well, just a tidbit while you pull it up. I mean, I interned with Dennis on the Bush re-election campaign in 2004. So Dennis and I go way back. He's an interesting fellow, but generally good guy, I would say.
Yeah, and even if he wasn't, doesn't mean he's wrong. Let's hear what he has to say. Everyone looking at Republican rules. This is what happens. Come Monday, does the RNC recognize a new chairman? We may not see any announcement because the RNC doesn't like publicizing squabbles. Makes sense to me. If the RNC recognizes a newer interim chair, Melinda Pago, it's over for Karamo. Yeah, I would say that seems to be the case. If the RNC comes out and says Kristina was removed, done. What court's going to disagree with that? I mean, maybe a crazy partisan court, a Democrat court that might want to cause as much trouble as possible. And by the way, folks, think about that too. What's the partisan angle here? What is a Democrat judge going to want to do? Kick Kristina out or keep Kristina in? That should tell you, folks, that's a clear sign of who the globalist WEF crypto Democrats are. Is what would a Democrat judge want to do? By the way, did you guys notice this? I saw a couple of tweets from Jonathan Osting, who covered the event. He was at the event. And he had one tweet the other night that said, referring to Melinda Pago, described herself as acting chair. And then like another tweet he had like moments prior to that says, and the state party put out this statement. No, possibly former state party. None of that language. Jonathan Osting, who writes for Bridge Magazine, a left of center publication, put the clarification. Melinda Pago, who calls herself acting chair, but no disclaimer, no acknowledgement of disputation when it came to what the official state party put up. But anyway, let's get back to what Dennis Lennox says. If RNC recognizes a new or interim chair, it's over. By the way, folks, what do you think the RNC is inclined to do? Because, the RNC has an extra, they're a little bit overrepresented by Michigan, right? Because their chairwoman's from Michigan. What do you think Ronna McRomney thinks about Kristina Karamo? Just saying. Facts and logic aside, what do you think the bias of the RNC might be on this matter? So then Dennis says, if there's no immediate action, the next event to watch is the RNC's winter meeting later this month. Every state party chairman is a member of the RNC. Who does the RNC credentials? If they don't credential Karamo, it's over. And then this goes on for a long 30, 40 something thread about the details of the national convention and competing slates and all that stuff. I think actually that you could probably just cut it off there. If we don't have a definitive resolution from the RNC based upon just them declaring Karamo fired, I think the next thing is, if she's seated at that next RNC winter meeting, that's a bad sign. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think they're going to have to make a declaration at some point. And I think the facts, the arguments, the stuff we've been over, plus on top of that, what the RNC's inclinations are going to probably be for anyway, is going to probably be the tipping point. But what do you guys think about all this?
I think that you're pretty accurate on where you're looking. I think there's some other stuff that comes into play too. I think that you're going to find other people kind of propositioning the RNC for this as well, for a definitive decision. In my opinion, it's not just going to be these two parties come before the RNC. Because the Michigan Republican Party is chartered under the RNC, and that's going to be the arbiter. I think that you're going to see people who have really stayed out of all of these things behind the doors start making a lot of phone calls. Yeah.
By the way, I see some more folks here saying it's got to be decided by a court because, for example, how do we get control over the Twitter account? Here's what I imagine is going to happen next, and because you're right, there will have to be litigation. I think the very next thing that's going to happen is Melinda or the state committee is going to have to appoint a new general counsel to immediately file a motion to get him out of that damn lawsuit against Comerica Bank, because that is an in-your-face, immediate, serious legal problem that they all want to get out of right away. And at that point, Hartman's going to file something saying, you're not the general counsel, I'm the general counsel, yada, yada. And that case might end up becoming the arena for that disputation. I think it'll also be expedited based upon the fact of the business at hand that's coming up very quickly, where this could have the ability to disenfranchise 4.5 million primary voters and or the entire delegate caucus base through county elevation for the presidential caucus that's coming up. You're going to have a definitive answer on that, because the dysfunction will just grow too hard and too fast. This is going to be ended swiftly. According to the MIGOP Twitter handle last night, it will be dealt with swiftly. Yeah, that's what they said.
Warren, can I add something here? I feel like maybe we skipped over this, and this is important. Obviously, we have the presidential and everything coming up, and this seems like the worst time to do something like unseat the chair. But this is the example that I like to use. You guys have to remember that she is going after the sole governance of the party, of the delegates, of the counties, of the districts, and all of this. And Sue Aller was the case that we brought up. Those committees are going after removing committee members that have the dissenting voice, that don't agree with what's taking place. If we did not do this now, people were going to start to be removed, and it's all in the plans, and they've probably got it written down to a T, the same way that our Mackinac ratings were written down. So this was not the most proper time to do this, but we were at the edge of a cliff. The next cliff is 10 feet. We've got the mafia behind us. Do we jump or do we just stand there and be, knocked off by the mafia? So again, it was a bad choice, but we did it and we're going to keep rolling forward.
And I think the proof is in the pudding with Patty P just put in there that all vice chairs that attended have now been locked out of all of their email access and all of their ability to function as MIGOP representatives. They were also voted in by a delegation. Yeah, listen, the hypocrisy knows no bounds, to quote Doc Holliday in Tombstone. So, I mean, you don't need to look far.
And failure of fiduciary duties, Warren.
Yeah, I think, and to Holly's point here, there's never a good time. And folks, you know what the Republican Party motto is? Next year. But no, the sooner we get this done, the better. The reality is there's no good time. A month from now, we'll be in the middle of the conventions and the primaries. And then we get closer and closer to the next, the general primary, the primary in August.
Well,
and then you get closer to November. The sooner this got done, the better.
Even before those things transpire, in the next 2 weeks, we will be holding an election for the 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. We will be holding an election for a new chair. Like, people need to get very serious about what's coming down the pipe.
Yeah. Curtis Clark on Facebook says, I don't believe you have the signatures. You used too many proxies that are being disputed. Curtis, on Rumble and YouTube, you can rewind the video. And we covered this already. And to other folks who are asking me about who's going to be the next chair, we're coming to it, folks. Geez, let's finish one topic. We will get to the next thing. We will talk about what happens after this too.
Can I comment on what Curtis Clark said?
Sure.
Curtis Clark said he doesn't believe it. I believe there's a lot of things that Curtis Clark says that are very slanderous, not accurate, and not true. So it's unfortunate you don't believe that, Curtis.
Well, at the end of the day, there's words on paper. There's paperwork. So someone's going to look at it, and we'll see.
Yeah,
we have the receipts.
We have the receipts, baby.
Yeah, Kelly says she will blame everything on us counterfeit conservatives. Yeah, I feel like a broken record talking about this, but it's worth repeating. Everyone on this call, on this chat, has been busting our butts for the conservative movement for a long time. And so, and by the way, if anyone wants to say we're rhinos, we're establishment people, you all know I've said plenty of things on this show that no rhino would ever say in a million years. And by the way, name one other person in Michigan who's done more to expose the behavior of rhinos than the guy that wrote the entire legislative record of the entire state legislature and gave it all an indexing and a sorting and a scorecard and everything else.
Adam,
go ahead, Warren.
I was just going to say, I can't really say anything about the rhino stuff. My FBI agent that looks over my shoulder, he's currently on my shirt. He's watching my every move. So I have to be very careful about everything I say. But people know my work, so I'll just leave it at that.
There you go.
Well, I guess that's what's so frustrating is we all work so hard, but I work 100 hours a week more for something to be told that, just slandered all the time.
I know the hell of it is. If I was really a globalist rhino, I'd have a nicer car, I'd have a nicer house. I'd make so much more money.
Again,
I'd love that globalist consultant money. I'd love just to be able to work for a client. I don't give a crap about what it was and just take him for his money, like one of these billionaires.
But guys, again,
but I actually want to work for the good guys. That's a thing, and there's not too many good guys out there.
But I want to go back and stress this point again. We have to understand where this comes from. When this organization, when MIPF was recruiting these people and they were training them and they were setting them, out there to be activists, the number one marching order was we need to fight everyone in our party first, and then we can fight Democrats. They're still on we need to fight everyone in our party first, and they would burn down 24 just to have that done. These people, they're not serious. These are not serious people. But it's indoctrination nonetheless. You say a thing over and over again enough, people believe that that's really true. That they created boogeyman's out of thin air, right? Everyone's a rhino until there's no one left. I mean, just the joke that I'm I'm a Democrat or I'm a, like I'm a nut job conservative, right? I'm a right wing nut, you know. I'm an ultra MAGA Trumper. Like these people are just they're nuts.
Yeah, Kelly Powell says, I've never in my life seen KK knock a door. I've just called Amber randomly for something, just on some random thing during the day, and she's like, I'm not knocking on doors right now. Like, how many people do you know you can call up and randomly they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not knocking on doors. Yeah, Holly
Peggy
says,
Dornboss. Peggy Dornboss is always
Holly
knocking
is upset
doors.
because someone
Peggy
they've
is
been using the
always
term
knocking doors,
pegophile. Yeah, they're really disgusting. It's all confession through projection too. Everything that they say that we are.
Whoa. This is the party of the Christians. Okay. They're the most God-fearing people right now. You know, and we
oh my
shouldn't
gosh,
be
Dan, you're gonna make me puke.
Yeah.
You're gonna make me puke.
But
we
no,
are not
it
a religious
really
organization.
No, but it really is disconcerting that they are so awful to people, and yet want to say how good Christians they are. You know, like they don't want to.
They made this meme video about me and Shane the other day, and it was just like basically they looked through like the last maybe 7 days of my videos. Guys, if you want the real oppo on me, you got to really go back, watch every Rescue Michigan video for the past year, 2 years, 3 years. You wouldn't believe the things I say.
I did laugh at that video though. That video was
I'll
so
give you a freebie.
horrible.
Look at this. I am Russian agent. I'm an agent of Russia. There, you can put that in your next video. There you go. These are very warm hats, by the way.
You know, I got dragged into that video too, Adam. So let's be nice. I did. The Young Americans First, which 501c4s are apparently bad guys. So yeah. We're gonna teach your kids. What you and Shane get me into sometimes.
Christians don't treat people.
Let's talk real quick about the dark money from big globalist donors that Kristina Karamo does not want, but then in the same breath complains that those big globalist donors are not donating to the party. I just don't know which way to go.
I know. I agree with that statement. It's like how dare you not donate to us?
No.
How dare you not donate to us? But we're not going to talk to you at all.
John,
until the Weiser McCarthy money comes through.
Well, no, you guys, I think you forget. She invited all of the donors and all of the voters that don't agree with the way that she's leading right now. And she told them to go pound sand. I mean, if you pound it hard enough, right? Like you get diamonds or something, maybe that's what she meant.
Yeah. Unreal. I mean, and you know, it's amazing that we're talking about all of these insane things that have happened in the party in the past month. Like I remember 2 months ago coming to my county GOP, like, can you believe this list where they were labeling donors? How that by itself is an impeachable offense, in my humble opinion, to be treating donors who had the trust in you to give you their money. Like that by itself was impeachable. And now that's like a speck, a drop in the bucket compared to the things that they've done. That's just coming up since then. But anyway, we've got some other folks in the chat who are really wanting to know that, because we've gone through so many things, they also move on to the next thing, which I guess the next thing is what happens next if we get rid of Kristina? Who's the next chair? And people are wondering about this. So the process
is clear. The chair will be elected at our next meeting, unless that meeting's already been called, which, you know, we canceled the 13th meeting. So there's no meeting.
Wait, let's go back to the 13th meeting.
Good idea, Amber.
Yes. So will I'm not going to say we. Will there be people outside protesting? Something that's I guess peaceful gathering on the inside.
What's the protest? It's just a bunch of people getting together to LARP.
Yeah, it's just a gathering of people. I can't stop people from having their First Amendment rights to assemble and talk about things. So they can sit down and talk about it, but there's no legitimate business that can be conducted. It's an illegal meeting. It's illegitimate.
Yep. Oh, and can we add, if people do think they're going to do that, you guys have to be peaceful protesters, and like heckling people and harassing them is not acceptable by any standard.
Yeah, there was a situation yesterday.
And integrity.
Yeah.
By the way, John Smith says Michonne's on the Atlanta Council and Rocha is the biggest grifter. There you go. Anyway,
well, if we want to talk about what's next, and so the process on the chair is, there'll be a meeting. Either Melinda will call a special meeting, or we'll have our spring meeting, and that's when the committee will elect a chair. So the question for chat is, what do you guys want to see in a new chair? Like, what are the qualifications and issues that are important to you that you want us to look for? Because we have our list. We've talked about it amongst ourselves a little bit, but I'm interested in what the precinct delegates have to say about it.
Well, can I say I have someone who I've asked about running for chair, and he didn't flat out tell me, no, I absolutely will not do it. I don't know if I can talk him into doing it. I'm going to continue to try to talk him into running for it, into doing it. And that's Jim Runstead. And I'm not saying he will run. I'm saying I want him to run. He is a state senator. He has 3 years left in his term. That's probably why he won't. But the thing about Jim Runstead is, A, he's a fantastic fundraiser. He knows how to close the deal with huge high-dollar donors, and he is a hardcore conservative. So he fits that. He fits that bridge that you might need. I've heard people talking about Pete Hoekstra for chair.
I agree with
that
Stephanie.
would be a disaster.
Highlight Stephanie's.
Yeah.
Highlight
Stephanie
Stephanie's
says,
really
"I'd love
fast.
to. I would die to have Dave DeShaw as the chair." Okay.
Dave DeShaw was there yesterday.
Yeah, he
too,
was
and I
there.
said the same thing. Like, when the way he handled the convention meeting, he was the hero at our last
Yes.
convention meeting. He was.
Yeah.
I don't even know the guy. I was like, I have to shake your hand. He was great.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
Other
what you're saying,
names have
Pete
been
Hoekstra, I'm
floated
sorry.
around. I've heard people suggest Vance Patrick. Maybe seems good to me. Oakland County chair, laid back guy, gets along with people.
He's been through this whole fight. I mean, he's the only one that's name's been thrown around.
He had the
that's been
courage to
there.
stand up against Kristina too. He put out that statement. That was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think if they pick someone like, and I'd be shocked if the state committee would pick someone like Hoekstra, because I would even grant you, he might be able to raise money, and maybe in that role it wouldn't be terrible, but that would absolutely vindicate the rude Kristina people who would go, see, it was all a neocon globalist plot to begin with, blah, 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 blah.
Can we just talk about this
that would
real
not
quick,
fly
though?
with me at all.
Can we just talk about this real quick and what this is going to look like? I want everyone to be very clear-eyed about this. If you thought the vote to remove was one thing, they are going to coalesce around a single individual to put forward upon her removal. They will vote like Democrats in an absolute block. There will be no wavering. Everyone will get marching orders. It will come from the top down, and chances are it's probably going to be Ken Byer. And you guys need to understand this. This is an absolute reality. Yeah. They are not going to break and fracture. They are going to do exactly what they've done this entire time. They will hold a concerted block of votes, and they will only back one person. Yep. And if you're confused about this, you're misunderstanding where you are in the movie. Okay. So if we don't coalesce behind one single individual, probably within a week to 10 days of vetting, we are going to lose and probably be in a worse situation. So the fight is not over. This is not something that's going to end anytime shortly. But in the next 2 weeks, there is real work that needs to start tomorrow with vetting these candidates and putting forward someone who, A, can work with inside the Trump organization, that has the backing of that organization, no matter who it may be, and then B, someone who has a plan forward and can put people into place for a 10-month salvage operation. This isn't a turnaround. This is taking over after a fire sale and starting up and then bankrupting yourself in 10 months. We need to raise $10 million in 10 months. If you can't pull in $1 million a month, please do not step forward.
Let me ask you, Warren, about the process. Is it possible that the state committee members can vote to have a runoff? Therefore, it won't be a situation where...
This is what I will tell you is going to happen. The RNC will come in and run this like the convention to elect that happened on February 18th. They will be advisory for that election. There is no doubt in my mind that they will not help form and commit the rules to this. And it's pretty clear as it is already. It is a 50
Wait, hold on. You said there's no doubt in your mind they will not help make the rules?
No, there's no doubt in my mind they will help course correct the rules to make it that they help determine exactly what this looks like, right? And I'm talking about the rules for the day of the vote, right? Not necessarily that they're picking anybody, but they will have a hand in this. And so with that being said, right now as it stands, it is a 50+1 majority as the winner. So if you have 3 candidates that are in this race, they probably do the same thing they did before, right? You go plurality until you get to a jungle primary runoff, and then that's what it is afterwards. It's going to be the top vote getter behind the 2 that make it through, and there probably only will be 2 rounds of voting. People need to be very understanding about what this is going to mean.
Warren, can I add to
too,
what you just? Sorry,
ahead,
he's just on the rounds to voting. Don't cite me and quote me on this, but my understanding is that policy chair and the policy committee in this moment is being formed, and they will be tasked to start putting together the rules and the process that will go into that whole cycle, whether it's 1 round, 2 rounds, are we voting this way or that way. So I do believe it's all in motion right now.
My point to this is, because of the shakeup with Kristina and the stacking of the policy committee, the removing of Andy Siebold from it, the night of the long knives, so to speak, that transpired, you are going to get an organization that is going to say, if that rule is out of bounds, no, it's this. They're not going to let them, just run roughshod over this. They are the seed. We're a seed from the controlling body. You know what I mean? We're an appendage of the RNC. So they will have the final say to make sure it's fair. But that's my point, Bree, is that who is the policy chair right now? What does that committee look like? What would come out of that? Knowing what I just told you, that these individuals are a monolith. There will be no break. So people need to be very clear-eyed about what that means for the candidate that they choose to put forward. So if you wanted change, you have the opportunity to do it, but it must be a change through a coalition and unity. I told everyone at the very beginning of this, before I started even going to the press or anything else, and everyone laughed at me. I said, this had the opportunity to be the most unifying moment in the entire history of this cycle for the party, and maybe in the last 15 years. And you're seeing that transpire
I think it's very
today.
exciting to think about who might be the next chair.
Can you
By the way,
Emma's comment?
I'm gonna read some chats here. Ron Picard says, we have tried to flip any chance KK can get back to 50% +1. I doubt it, Ron. I think she's cooked. But if you guys want to weigh in, you're welcome to. I don't know what this is in reference to, but there was a comment on Rumble. Where'd it go? Oh, it disappeared. Never mind. We'll come back to other chats here. Emma asks, what about Melinda Pago? As I understand it, Melinda has no interest in being chair.
No, she doesn't want
Correct.
it.
She just doesn't want it. So that's out. Thomas LeDuc says, is it the contention of the panel that Karamo, when she was chair, called a meeting for the 13th, and that was canceled yesterday? Yes, correct?
Correct.
Yes, that was canceled.
Yep. Tyler 0400 on Rumble says, I don't know what this is in reference to, but he said, you mean like Adam calling new PDs ass roots? No, Tyler, I'm not calling new precinct delegates ass roots. I'm calling the ass roots, and they know who they are.
You'll never live that down.
I'm not trying to live it down. I'm repeating it. I repeated it multiple times tonight, and I'll repeat it multiple times more nights.
I have a picture you can use.
They're the people who are not actual conservative activists in any way, shape, or form. They're tourists, they're LARPers, they're troublemakers. They don't knock on doors, they don't donate, they don't support any conservative campaigns, and they love to cause trouble. They're not productive people. They don't help. And that's why Kristina has no money, because that's who her supporters are. They're the ass roots. They're not grassroots. They're the ass roots. They're crap, and they should be eliminated by being outcompeted for precinct delegate races and never, ever allowed to be on county, district, or state committees. God forbid.
All right, Adam, that's enough about Lori, okay?
In all fairness, I think that this whole thing, too, is a lot of people like an underdog. And I don't think that we give a lot of credence to that people like an underdog and victimization and victimhood. And this whole administration has been one of victimhood.
Yep. But victimhood never gets you results. You never get actual results and win.
Well,
it'll get a lot of people to feel bad for you. It'll get a lot of people to feel bad for you. And that's what really pissed me off, is when she's like, or when the administration be like, well, they didn't give her anything. Well, then you make lemonade out of lemons. You have to make your own way, and they never did.
Hey, Adam, can
Yeah.
I take this time to make a real quick comment?
Yes.
So everybody, just so you know, my strategy for what I'm going to do in the 2024 cycle is I am going to start an organization which I'm going to help fund, and I'm going to do it on my own dime and try to make as many as I can. I'm going to recruit between 1,000 and 1,500 delegates before the August convention.
Good.
That's going to be the
Mind
thing
you,
that I'm
you
going to do this
also
entire
ran
cycle.
the war room, and
Yeah.
you
Hey,
extremised the
mistakes
people
that
that
you learn
were.
from.
Yeah, don't.
Hey,
Yeah,
look.
don't.
I'll,
I'm going to do
all
the
of us
training.
have-
Don't worry.
I will never, ever forgive you for everything I had to go through last year, Warren. And that'll be over
Again,
coffee one day.
Yeah. Again, everybody that the war room touched won their races. I didn't lose a single race, so I can't hear that. I'm sorry. Thank you.
You lost more votes in Oxford that have never happened. Like you
We
had more
won
voters not turn out in
we
Republicans.
won every single race. I don't know. Is it
You
about winning? Is it about
Lori
winning?
Scabeau.
I didn't extremize anybody. You see
You
where I'm at.
extremized everybody. Everybody
First of all,
that was there
extremize
yesterday.
isn't a word. Extremize isn't a word. All right,
Everybody
let's go back
that
to
was
that.
there yesterday came from your facility, the war room, that went against OCRP last cycle.
Amber,
so
I don't care what you're saying. I was a
It's
delegate
true.
first elected in August. A guy that
It's
came from
true.
nowhere didn't extremize anybody, right?
You
People have their
extremised the
own
whole
human
group
agency.
All right.
yesterday.
Hey.
Okay.
The
Let me.
This is why
whole
we
Let
don't
me
work.
break this up
This
for
is
one.
why we don't
Let me
work
break this up for
together.
1 second.
This is why
guys.
we
Let
don't
me break
work
this up for
together.
1 second. Look,
All right.
Let's build a
we've all brought our
coalition.
fair share of
friends.
people into the
Coalition.
movement that don't always turn out great. In fact, I remember Phil O'Halloran being an old Ron Pollard back in the day.
There
Look,
you go.
Battles
Oh,
change us. And hold on. Wait, hold on, Bree.
Sorry.
I'll get to you next. But I do want to make this point. Look, conflict is part of politics, and it's natural. Like I see, there was a comment from this guy asking, "Am I one of them?" Because we had some words earlier. Look, Stephen, I don't know you, and we might disagree on something or other, and some of your comments earlier might have been snarky or whatever. Who cares? Look, friends come and go, enemies come and go. It's the way it goes. People fight over policy, over tactics, over candidates, over campaigns, over priorities even. That's just the way things are. And we will be bringing, and a lot of the people we brought into this movement are on Kristina's side now because they have this mentality of hatred for the establishment, which I share, by the way. But what I've learned is, we actually have three enemies. We got the Democrats, the establishment, and we got these tourists, the ass roots, as I have termed them. And that's just the way things are. And you're going to bring in people that end up being different than the people that you thought they were when you brought them in. But the challenge that we have right now, and I'm serious, folks, this is a real challenge we have right now. There are county conventions coming up in a month. And you better believe that the average precinct delegate in Michigan has an attitude of, media says Kristina good, or says Kristina's bad, therefore Kristina's good. And that's as deep as it gets.
100%.
So if you aren't talking to your precinct delegates about what the real story is and about what really happened to state party, you're going to have a damn big problem when your county conventions come up, folks. And that's going to involve a full court press. I mean, not even just sending an email blast. That's not enough. Meeting with them, talk to them, hearts to hearts. Get everybody in your county who understands what's going on together. War game this. Plan who's going to call whom. Get meetings scheduled from the most influential people down to the least, because you're going to have a really big problem in our county conventions, especially if the state chair is still in dispute. That's going to be very, very bad. So people need to know what's going on. And that's why we've been having so many of these programs and conversations, so that you guys can take the information you've got here and take it to the people who don't know the nitty-gritty, dirty details about this stuff, because it does matter. And they're going to hear this was an illegitimate convention. The media says it was legitimate. Kristina says it wasn't, so I believe Kristina. That's going to be their attitude, unless you can show them that it's not a black and white world. So there you go.
PDs are being signed up right now. So you can re-up your precinct delegate for August right now. There's new forms. You need a notary. So when you go to different events, there should be delegate forms to be handed out and notarized right now.
Yep. All right. I want to come back to Bree because she wanted to say something, but real quick, I did also have this quick comment
thank you.
from Stephanie. Well, okay, hold on. I'll read this real quick, so I'll get this out of the way. When people don't agree and want to stay neutral until the court decides, tell them, why would you believe just because the court says? Look at the facts yourself. Decide for yourself. All right, go ahead, Bree. Sorry.
Yep. So I just wanted to share this. This just came in. You didn't get it in the news feed, but this was a private message request that was sent to me, I'm sure because of the viewing. This is from John Butt Key. I hope I pronounced that correctly. This is what he brings to the table. Your vote against Karamo is still not legal. But then again, you know that while continuing to push your bullshit across the media, you and your cohorts are pathetic and poor representation of the Republican Party. I believe the term rhino, I believe the term would be rhino. I just want to say, Mr. Buttkey, thank you for voicing your opinion. Unfortunately, I'm not interested in debating your opinion without any conversation of truth and fact and matter. So my recommendation to you is sit your ass down or go mow the lawn, because that's how useful you are with a comment like that.
Hey, I'm Mexican and I'm used to mowing the lawn. So that's my kind of thing.
Hey, John, right? And you mow the lawn damn good. Damn good job at mowing the lawn.
Damn
right. It's nice work.
Stephanie, cheers.
See you guys later. Have a good night. I got to go.
No, actually, I think that we're probably about done here tonight. Oh, did Bree have to sign? She did have to sign off. Okay. Well, I'm glad she came on to join us. I hope the content wasn't what chased her away. I don't think it was. I think it's been a long stream, guys. We've been going for more than an hour and a half now.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I've got too much more to talk about.
There are a series of meetings. As a matter of fact, while we were in this stream, somebody messaged me, and they received a text message from the Karamo the administration, and it said, the text message said, and I don't know if I can show you and it'll come through, but he received a text message with the graphic saying, good evening, please join Chairwoman Kristina Karamo as she shares insights and outlooks for moving MIGOP forward in 2024. In Liberty, Kristina Karamo. So they received that tonight, and the person responded back, you have been removed from office. Please cease and desist all communications to this number. So luckily that person was awesome. Patriot, but so
yeah, hey, you know what really drives them crazy? When you report their text as spam.
Yeah.
That's good. Yes.
Yep. Heather Herman says, Stephanie, can you drink some of the apple pie in a jar that my sister made for me? Some kind of inside joke here. I have been negligent in my Rumble chats here. I apologize, folks on Rumble.
Hey, Adam, I have an email I'm gonna send you. It's gonna be it's something I think you should look at offline. It'll be very, very interesting. But I think it's something, and I think Dan knows about it too, and I think Warren does too. It'll be very interesting. But we can talk about it offline. But it's gonna help clear out a lot of things.
Okay.
And of course, anybody who's rabid Karamo supporter is not going to believe anything you say anyways. I've often said anybody who detracts from the truth, Jesus Christ could come down, walk across water and say, here's the truth. And they'd say, you're fake, so it doesn't really matter. I don't spend much time with those individuals. They're not worth my time. And they, like you said before, they don't donate. They don't knock doors. They're just keyboard warriors with a loud mouth. That's pretty much it.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's me again. Sorry. On Rumble says Rumble is used to being ignored by streamers. That's because Rumble does not integrate with StreamYard. That's the problem. Every other platform does. Rumble doesn't. So Rumble, I love Rumble. We're always going to stream on Rumble. It's our primary archive of our videos because it's the only place we know we're really safe to be speaking online. But it has some work to do technologically speaking. So just saying. I'm sorry, Amber, do you want to say something?
Though, about recruiting delegates and how every one of us should be recruiting a delegate or a neighbor or somebody, but not only just recruiting, but holding them accountable for the job. I mean, as executive director, we had 1,000 delegates.
Former executive director.
Thank you. Oh man, it's gonna be hard. 1,000 delegates in Oakland County, and I think out of the 1,000, maybe 150 were like countable, where I could call them up and be like, hey, this is what you can do to help. And that sucks. So I know we have 400 still open seats, but the open seats don't count if you're not doing anything. So make sure that they pick up a phone. There's so much to do.
On Rumble, NC Sable says, I'm a precinct delegate and executive committee member, and I'm not allowed to speak at the meetings that my state committee member holds because I don't support Kristina Karamo. Yeah, I mean, that's the attitude these people have. They're exactly like the Democrats, folks. I remember a long time ago when back in like 2009 when the Ron Paul people were taking back the GOP, and my kind of political mom was saying, that's Debbie Hopper, for those who don't know, which you can figure that out for yourself who that is. But anyway, she was someone I worked with on the Ron Paul campaign. But she says, when we take back the party, we are not going to treat the other side the way the other side treats us today. And damn if the Kristina people are not exactly like the people they hate the most. They are intolerant. They are bigoted. They are quick to accuse. They are nasty. They are nasty people. And then of course they call themselves Christians. They are. It's all confession through projection. I think it's about time we shut down the stream, guys. It's been a very long stream. We got lots of depths. We've covered a lot of topics. Yeah, Patty P says they're worse. I'm starting to think that. Yeah, Aaron says they've become that which they hated. Heather Herman asks, what do you think about the Good Neighbor program? I haven't even tried it. I heard the database behind it, they're just regular old crap. I like my system better, frankly. You go to Rescue Michigan, get your own voter file. Stephanie says that's what's so strange about all this. When she got in, everything was supposed to change. I never dealt with this in the last administration, the names and the bullying. I've never had a state party beat up on the county and district parties the way Kristina's has. You're right. It's been even worse. Ron Picard says, thanks, guys. Last time, how many times I said, I hope they did it right. I hope they did it right. I hope they did it right. This was extremely helpful. Good. Yes, they did do it right, Ron. And I think they're going to succeed when this goes into litigation, into the RNC. I think something tells me that their small army of attorneys were better than Dan Hartman at this stuff.
I don't know. Come on now. Come on now.
Oh, how upset was he yesterday when I suspended the rules?
Oh man,
that's
yeah,
fantastic.
that was hilarious. Yep. And just to close out the stream with fun. By the way, does anybody else on the panel have anything else they want to add before we sign off? I have one more thing. Go ahead.
Just real quick, I just wanted to shout out to my FBI agent. Just I hope he's there. I hope he says hi. I hope he watches this. And thanks for having my back always.
Right on.
I guess I'll say why I left OCRP because a lot of people are kind of asking me. I took a job with Sandy Pensler for U.S. Senate. I'm really excited. I'm not leaving Oakland. I live in Oakland, but I really believe in Sandy Pensler for U.S. Senate as a great moderate between the grassroots and people with money. And I think we can beat slacking with him. So I am going to try my hat at a campaign and see where it goes. So I hope everybody that hasn't signed for a Senate candidate joins me with Sandy Pensler. But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think Sandy Pensler would be great. I ended up I attended a fundraiser for Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul, at his home. He is one of us. He is. He really is. So.
Yeah, I'll just note that I'll be at the District 6 event tomorrow and the District 12-13 event on Thursday, explaining this to precinct delegates. And so if you're in the area, you have any questions in those districts, I look forward to seeing you guys.
And thank you so much to Dan and Warren, honestly, for all the work you guys have done behind the scenes. I mean, and everybody, but especially I know you two tirelessly and with families and all. Thank you so much.
John and Bree did a lot too. You got to give
And
everyone.
John,
listen,
yeah.
The whole team.
Okay, our team was about 40 people, and I just want
I
want people to understand that. Yeah, our team was 40 people.
The whole time she was saying it's like this small group, and we're just like we're just laughing every week because we're having multiple Zooms a week, and we're just laughing and it's like page after page on the screen. When you get so many people in a Zoom, and it was fantastic to work with these people, and it just shows you what the party can do when the party lets us do the work instead of trying to shove things down our throat.
Yeah, both of those meetings, they got business done. That's for sure.
Like I said, it's the most unifying experience I've ever had in the Republican Party.
Agreed.
Yep. On Rumble, Corone00 says, just an FYI about Dan Hartman. I hired him to represent me and paid him $1,500. The lawsuit was dropped. I had to call him countless times to refund me. He didn't go to court once. It was a lawsuit I had last year. There you go.
He's not. Is he licensed in Michigan? I didn't think he was.
No, you're thinking about the other guy that got disbarred in Ohio or something.
Oh.
Owens or
Hitman
whatever.
48 says Dan helps us with Quorum. He also says CJ Van Andel is a Fed. Cindy One Shorty says good night all. All right, I think we've read enough of these comments. One more last thought before we sign off, though, since the title of this video was "Brighter Days Ahead." You know, when I've been criticized for comparing Kristina to Todd Corser, but I remember when I was working in the legislature when they got rid of Todd Corser. I was working. My coworker in Gary Glenn's office was Mike Goshka, who was a former state senator, and he was a lawmaker in Lansing when this other guy, David Jay, got kicked out of the legislature, and he was telling people, including leadership, get this done quickly, folks, because you don't realize what a burden it is on you day after day after day until they're gone. And sure enough, when they finally got rid of Cindy and Todd, everybody in Lansing was like, oh my God, I didn't realize how our entire day was taken up with dealing with Cindy and Todd bullshit. Cindy and Todd, Cindy and Todd, Cindy and Todd. And once they were finally gone and out of the picture, it was like the skies cleared and suddenly you can do things again. And what the state committee did on Sunday or on Saturday, yesterday, couldn't have come any sooner. Couldn't have come any sooner. Or I'm sorry, couldn't have been too soon. Couldn't have been too soon. And this couldn't have waited another week, another month, another 3 months, 6 months. No, it's done. And once the dust settles and she's gone for good, everyone's going to realize how much freer we are and how much more productive we're going to be. And you're going to start to see the entire Republican Party function again. And people are going to be intoxicated by how good it feels to be free of this bullshit. And that's where things are going to be, hopefully very, very, very soon. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. And it's been a very busy week in the Rescue Michigan podcast schedule. So I'm sure we'll be back next Sunday. Who knows? Maybe we'll do another one even during the week, but we shall see. Yeah, he says don't be up till 1 a.m. every day anymore.
Yeah.
I'm just saying till 1 a.m. every day, worrying about Kristina.
I'm
all
texting
right.
you
Good night,
tonight,
guys.
Good night, guys.
All right. Thank you guys all for joining us. Until next